Yeah, thanks, Jackie, and thanks everyone for coming to watch this presentation. I'll be thinking about the effects of online teamwork on group cohesion and L2 and social anxiety. My name's Deborah Maxfield. Feel free to call me Debbie, and I'm at Rikyo along with quite a large number of people who seem to be in this meeting now. Anyway, thanks for coming. So I'll just take you through a study I conducted in 2020 on the effects of using teams in EFL classes. These are some of the stages I'll go through. So starting with the theoretical background, just to bring in a few definitions and concepts here. So group cohesion is something I got really interested in recently. It's something that like many of us have experienced, but it's quite hard to define. Giving one definition that can be applied to all groups is quite tricky, like from families to co-workers. Potter et al.'s definitions could be broken down as like group cohesion is how committed we are to working or remaining together as a group with shared norms to achieve goals, and it depends on reactions from others in the group. So norms are like the values and behavior of a group. For example, whether a class prioritizes getting high marks on a test or not can really affect atmosphere, student participation, and motivation. So measuring group cohesion is quite tricky because we belong to such a diverse range of groups, right? And the role that we play in each one is different, from being part of a family or a company or a group of friends to the football club you support, your national identity. So I can't claim that this questionnaire developed to collect data for this study is measuring group cohesion in all contexts, but just it evaluated participants' subjective and self-reported experiences with their teams. So now I've put everyone off the idea of group cohesion. Why is it important? Well, it's been shown to affect our social identity, our sense of self in relation to others, and it affects our self-esteem, our implicit and usually subconscious assumptions about our own worth, and also anxiety, which I'll go into a bit in a second. So cohesion's been proven to be essential for groups to succeed on tasks or otherwise attain good performance. So we can see that this could apply to teaching, right? Of course, in like many like CLT-based courses, students need to participate in tasks interactively, during which social group dynamics in the classroom can impact their success on task performance. In this quote here by Pore, participation could mean like on a single task, or more generally, like how willing students are to participate actively in a class. So the effects of working in good teams in a second language L2 environment have been covered by Dornyei and Murphey in quite some detail. They describe how working in a helpful, positive group climate improved motivation and enabled students to successfully complete tasks. In the case of group-based tasks, one measure that can mediate success was the level of group cohesion. So the unity of the group in the class, or the measure of its members' commitment to the group, how comfortable they feel together. They also go through the stages that groups go through, quite catchily termed forming, norming, storming, performing. So the forming part, the group formation stage, is when the members first meet each other and they decide on their group culture and norms. In these early encounters with their peers and the teachers, this is where the atmosphere or the climate of a group kind of sets in. Of course, you know, I'm presenting this to adult teachers, so it's especially kind of useful within Japan. One reason here is being able to live harmoniously with others is really, really valued. Due in part perhaps to like lasting cultural influences from Confucianism. Heinrich et al.'s meta-analysis found that in generally speaking, East Asian peoples in comparison with Western peoples do have a greater tendency to view themselves in terms of their roles and responsibilities with others. and generally possess greater motivations to conform to group norms. And of course, like not everyone in one culture is going to behave in exactly the same way, but this tendency has been remarked upon in several other papers. Like writing specifically about growing up within Japan, the authors Sugihara and Katsurada found that the emphasis on socialization and group identity began at a very early age, like in which children learn that they're part of a group and that without the group, they don't exist. It's hard to imagine expressing that statement more strongly. And of course, if that tendency is as strong as claimed, we can really expect it to follow into L2 learning environments as well, like our own classrooms. So that's a bit about group cohesion. The other topic I'll be sort of thinking about here was anxiety. And we probably all know what anxiety is, right? That kind of like feeling. But that's believed to be from a brain region, the amygdala, which responds to emotional stimuli, particularly to threats, and that modulates anxiety. I'm going to go over the neuroscience fairly quickly, but basically the thoughts you're aware of, like everything from information from your senses to information you're using for a task or the words that you're just about to say in a JALT presentation, they're thought to be in what's termed like your working memory. It's basically the information that can simultaneously be processed or recalled. It's only about 7 things at once at the best of times. So here, the brain's switching between updating currently necessary information for the task and inhibition, removing irrelevant information. Now, this process can be negatively affected by strong emotional states, such as anxiety. So one of the negative effects of anxiety is difficulty remembering things. And difficulty with processing and remembering information is definitely going to be a problem in a language study context, which may be why there's so much study regarding L2 anxiety. So obviously this is anxiety in the context of L2 learning, right? But research suggested that L2 anxiety reduces not only our ability to remember, but also motivation, willingness to communicate, and how effectively students can process or produce another language. The good news is maybe group cohesion might mitigate some of these negative effects. So this study explored whether building more cohesive teams reduced L2 or social anxiety in an online context. So in 2014, MEXT introduced this, the English Education Reform Plan, which recommended that universities conduct classes in English, and they wanted to focus on higher language skills. Meaning like presentations or debates, critical thinking, as mentioned before. So therefore, lecturers were asked to teach 2 new courses, presentation and debate, starting from 2020. In this semester, both the courses were taught online as a kind of emergency measure due to coronavirus via Zoom. So based on previous psychological and EFL research, on the potential benefits of using cohesive groups for reducing anxiety and improving L2 learning outcomes, students were assigned to like regular groups or teams of about 5 students. Each team worked together for much of each week's lesson for 3 or 4 weeks in a row, with the expectation that staying together would encourage peer support and bonding between students, and thereby reduce anxiety and foster motivation. So this was an exploratory study, but I started with 3 kind of research questions. Did online learning affect L2 and or social anxiety? Did teams lead to cohesive groups? Did teamwork affect L2 and or social anxiety? So at the end of the semester, 98 students responded to the questionnaire on their affective or social experiences of online learning. The questions mostly used a 6-item Likert scale. These responses were converted into numeric data, and some statistical analyses run in SPSS, including like Pearson's R correlations, p-values. There were some negatively worded questions. For example, I didn't feel comfortable talking with teammates, and these were reverse coded to maintain comparability between positive and negative items. I hoped by using different wording of the same concept, we could maximize reliability. A little differently was the word choice questions. Here, it asked students to select 3 words to basically describe their emotional state while working either with their teams or in the class as a whole. So coming back to the research questions, did the study find the predicted results? Well, this was actually quite unclear. Results didn't clearly show whether online learning had affected L2 or social anxiety. However, results did suggest that using teams had led to cohesive groups, though how cohesive depended on a few factors. And finally, there did seem to be a reduction in L2 and social anxiety there. So these were some of the key results found, that this vast majority of students had found it helpful and useful, even if they still felt a little uncomfortable with their group at times. It seemed that group cohesion was a basic requirement, without which further social benefits or language learning benefits of working in a team couldn't occur. And finally, the relationship between online study and anxiety was still unclear. But so about the first one, so students found teamwork to be helpful and useful. Students reported very positive experiences with their teams. Most students reported that they found it helpful, enjoyable, felt less L2 anxiety, formed cohesive groups, and felt relaxed with their teams. Jolly good. Correlations between some of these different items then. So a strong correlation was found between working with a team helped me to speak English, and I felt relaxed with my teammates, implying that students felt that a comfortable social climate had a major impact on L2 use, English language use. So maybe students were more willing to communicate in cohesive groups. Maybe teammates were more likely to offer L2 assistance within cohesive groups. But either way, that seemed to be the finding. Another strong correlation was found between working with a team helped me in this class and I enjoyed working with the team. Again, kind of supporting that. Fairly moderate relations were found between working with a team helped me in this class and I felt relaxed with my teammates, or I enjoyed working with my teams, I felt relaxed with my teammates. So again, these suggest that a relaxed, enjoyable social climate was related to successful task performance. Correlations between there was good teamwork in all of my teams, or working with a team helped me in this class, could indicate that students felt productive teamwork was an essential part of effective learning for these courses, as well as a major part of whether they enjoyed the class, because good teamwork correlated fairly closely with I enjoyed working with my teams. So from this, it seemed that group cohesion was a basic requirement. As correlational analysis revealed the strongest relationship between I didn't feel comfortable talking with teammates and I didn't feel comfortable using English with teammates. And all respondents provided matching answers to both questions. I was really surprised by this. I actually went back in and checked the data a couple of times, but yeah, that does seem to be the answer there. So this is strongly suggesting that social and L2 anxiety may have compounded each other in teams with a poor social climate, whereas cohesive teams work together to reduce both types of anxiety. Both of these also correlated moderately with it was difficult to talk with my team. So this would fit with previous findings suggesting that L2 anxiety significantly impacts social climate. Some other moderate correlations were found, such as between it was It was difficult to talk with my team, and other negatively coded items like my teams didn't work well together or my teammates rarely helped me. And this suggests that feeling comfortable with a team was the most basic requirement for effective teamwork and good task performance. Students who worked in teams that did not communicate smoothly could not enjoy further social benefits, like reducing L2 anxiety, providing peer-to-peer assistance with speaking English. They didn't help each other. So it seems the key to productive and mutually supportive teamwork is that students must first feel comfortable. This really indicates the need to establish cohesive, warm, friendly groups with supportive and helpful group norms. But these don't mean that students had a negative experience with teams. Actually, most students had disagreed with the negative statement. Like, for instance, over 75% of students disagreed that sometimes my teams didn't work well together. So overall, they did have quite a positive experience with their teams. So I also asked them about their feelings during the online courses, and to summarize these by choosing some words to match your experience in the class or your experiences with your team by choosing up to 3 words from a short list. Fun, happy, friendly, relaxed, calm, scary, silent, and anxious. So as you can see, the most commonly chosen words for both the in-class and in-teams condition was fun, great, with friendly at a close second. But students had much more commonly reported feeling relaxed when working with their teams than they generally did in class. Conversely, a greater number had reported feeling anxious in class than they did when working with their teams. So if students were feeling more relaxed with their teams, this could be a good indication of cohesion. But one alternative explanation that occurred to me could be it was due to the online learning environment. So for the teamwork activities, students usually worked in a Zoom breakout room with just their team members. But when we were doing things together as a class, everyone was visible on the same screen to all of their classmates. And I did ask my students to leave their cameras on. So it's quite possible that, knowing that everyone could see them when we came together as a class may have increased anxiety during those periods. So this brings me into thinking a bit more about anxiety online or in a face-to-face environment, which was another research question I wanted to look at. Now, many students reported that I felt anxious about talking to classmates online before I started this course. But afterwards, over 85% reported feeling less anxiety than they had expected, agreeing that after studying in this class, it was less scary than I thought. A majority believed that speaking English online is easier than speaking English face-to-face, but there was no clear consensus on how L2 anxiety was affected by online learning, as around half, 49.5%, agreed that I felt more anxious when speaking English online than speaking English face-to-face. So if I take these results together, it kind of implies that although students might have found it easier using English online, studying online didn't really affect L2 anxiety. So in summary then, working with teams seemed to allow students to bond with others as they formed cohesive groups, and perhaps these helped to reduce L2 and social anxiety. However, the relationship between online study and L2 anxiety remains unclear from this one study. As there were no strong correlations found between those. It would seem that online learning in this context had no statistically significant effects, either for good or bad. But regardless of whether classes are conducted online or face-to-face, teachers can try to reduce anxiety in the early stages of group formation by developing a learning environment in which students feel comfortable both with each other and hopefully with the teacher too, such as through icebreaker activities to build acceptance and trust. I'll look at some suggestions for those next. So I thought about which results might be the most helpful for teachers, and how these could lead to the greatest changes based in part on that, the theory and my findings. So here's a couple of suggestions. So firstly, I really believe that building cohesion early is super important. One way to do that is with norm building tasks. So students can discuss behaviors that they want to see from others. They can explicitly discuss and agree on what's acceptable or encouraged. I'd suggest giving them a list to choose from to make sure they decide things that are still productive for the lesson. Like they don't just choose, oh, let's have fun all the time or something. And a lot of class time might be spent achieving tasks, but maybe as teachers, we also need to focus on building good teams as well. So I'll try to offer some activities designed to do this as a norm building icebreakers next. So overall, my findings suggest that the key to productive teamwork is that students must first feel comfortable with each other. So building this comfortable learning environment, building rapport should be a priority, not a secondary outcome of other classroom activities. We've all heard that first impressions count. And so it does seem like the best time to start would be in that first lesson when a class is meeting for the first time, and they'll collectively start forming the atmosphere and norms for that group going forwards. It's going to happen anyway, so why not make that process more beneficial? So this activity is a team discussion activity where students choose from a list of potentially positive goals or norms, and they try to agree on 3 for their team going forwards. So here I tried to offer a suitable list for them to choose from, but students can use this to set norms and expectations that they want to see in the classroom for themselves. So using icebreaker activities geared towards building this supportive learning environment can make this process more conscious and more explicit. From the students' emotional standpoint, affective standpoint, meeting that psychological need to belong to a social group is the most important thing that can be accomplished in that first lesson together. Allowing classes to democratically select their group norms could help to not only create a productive team, but also create this sense of shared superordinate identity that can increase team cohesion and reduce social anxiety. So, as was mentioned briefly before, what's best for the task or the learning outcomes set by MEXT or universities might not be best for the team. Current education ministry guidelines aim to develop students' fluency and higher language skills, but they don't set aside a lot of time in the curriculum for, icebreakers and so on, letting students actually feel comfortable together. So my findings kind of suggested that success on team tasks was largely underpinned by students feeling comfortable together, and teachers might be under pressure to satisfy curricular objectives, such as teaching vocabulary or other types of skills. And of course, accomplishing those language learning goals is important, but exclusively focusing on task success without forming successful teams at the start of a course might not be the best way to set students up. So the next stage of my research kind of aims to test this. I'm hoping to compare results from students on 2 activities. One that's designed to build team goals, activity A that I showed you a moment ago, and the other to build task goals, aiming to help them get, higher scores in activities, activity B in green. So students did either activity A or B to choose team or task goals in lesson 1 and completed a questionnaire. So at the end of this semester, I'm going to compare those 2 groups via paired samples t-tests to see if there was any discernible effect size between the activities. To finish then, it seemed that group cohesion was a basic requirement for success, and that most students had had a really positive experience with their teams overall, even if they reported some discomfort. I'd suggest trying to include time for discussing and choosing norms, and that using norm building icebreaker activities might be a good way to increase group cohesion or improve class climate from the start. And finally, maybe to think about, what's best for the task or best for the team. Here are some references for, for this that I've been developing. If you're interested in those, please let me know. I can send the full list. That's all from me. If there are any questions, please let me know. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Great presentation. Thank you. If anyone has questions, please just turn on your mic and
ask. Thank you, Debbie. Not a question, just a comment about the L2 environment and anxiety. Maybe student perceptions are a bit unclear, but my own personal experience, I've been teaching a general conversation class for the past 10 years, and 8 years was in the physical environment, and the last 2 years have been online.
Okay.
And just the number of volunteers I've been getting in the online environment has been staggering. Like in the in-classroom situation, it's very difficult to get any volunteers. But in the online situation, sometimes I have to say, okay, I'm not taking any more volunteers.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
So I just think that would be interesting to look from the teacher perspective as what teachers are thinking about student anxiety in the classroom.
Okay. Yeah, that could be something interesting to research in the future as well. Are our perceptions of their anxiety different to, the reality of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. What are the numbers there? How many more people are volunteering? What's the speaking time? I don't know whether we'll still be online next year or not, but
yeah. I mean, I'm back face to face. As you can see, I'm at the lovely sunny Rico campus right now. It might be, I'm not sure, if I do get another chance to teach online though, that could be an interesting thing to try and collect data on. Yeah.
Well, I think most universities are thinking about keeping some form of online going because they've invested so much in the infrastructure and so on. My university is thinking about continuing some form of online classes. They haven't decided yet, but they're going to keep it up.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Oh yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question, Jackie? Is that okay?
Yes. Go ahead, John. Yes.
Thanks a lot, Debbie, for that. The group, I couldn't agree with you more. Group cohesion is so important. I'm just curious, have you found, like in your research, like at least in my observations, the classes that go really well are there's always like a leader or two who some kind of like they pull the class together. So like always one or two people in the class, and they just kind of unify everybody. Although I've seen other classes where those people don't emerge, and there's no leader, so they don't go out and have like out of class activities. Sometimes our classes meet for lunch, and it's the leaders who are doing that. So I'm kind of curious if you've seen anything with those kind of powerful, more powerful personalities kind of helping with that group cohesion.
Okay, I mean, well, when they were working in teams, they were working in groups of usually 5, occasionally slightly smaller, 4 or 5. And yeah, there might well be, stronger personalities, sort of setting more of the tone of the group, or like you say, acting as leaders for it. It might be quite interesting to find out if there's a way to kind of create those sort of student leaders and lead them towards, developing the class to be we as teachers would like it to be. Because I've had experiences with classes in the past where, you get the sort of the class clown character, and if they emerge as the leader of the group, that doesn't always have the best outcomes for everyone, I think. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Debbie. Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Hi, can I talk as well?
Yes, go ahead.
I have an experience, maybe a bit like Guy had. in my online classes, we got feedback, a lot of it saying they felt a lot more comfortable talking online. So I was pretty surprised at your results, your report, but maybe because I pair them up always, never in bigger groups than that. So maybe that's got something to do with it.
Yeah, it could well do. I mean, group size is, I can imagine that being quite a big factor on how comfortable people feel. You know, in terms of, say, like, well, if I was, you know, doing public speaking in front of 5 people or 500, that would probably have some effect on how I felt about it. I didn't do a lot of pair work in these courses because we had to monitor the groups quite closely for the grading. But that might be something interesting to think about as well. You know, if there was a big effect between whether they were paired up or working in larger teams or not. Yeah, ideal team size.
I did monitor them very closely, jumping in and out of their breakout rooms and always keeping the scores of their speaking skills. So, but it was quite tough. Yes.
Sure, yeah, I can well imagine. Yeah, I had at one point, I got 3 devices going, you know, 2 laptops and my phone, and yeah, I started to feel like I didn't have enough headphones or I didn't have enough hands. I definitely didn't have enough brains going around for it sometimes. So, yeah.
I feel the same way.
Sure. Anything else?
Right. Yeah, thank you for the questions. And any last questions for Debbie?
Okay, well, yeah, thank you ever so much for watching, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.